All right, so I just did a video that I think touched on this, but let's talk more about it. I made a video called MyHeritage. Jews are white, but Middle Easterners are only white sometimes, which, by the way, YouTube disqualified me from making money off of that. I guess it could be deemed as racist, which if you actually watch my channel, you know that that's the opposite. The whole point of this channel is to celebrate and explore our diversity. And by doing that, we find out how we're actually connected. That's the whole theme of this channel. So our friend Melissa Castillo, or Castillo, however I'm supposed to pronounce that, because keep in mind my Mexican grandma didn't speak Spanish, and that's its own video. Here's what Melissa said, quote, "I have another question for you to pose to the YouTube community. There is a somewhat general understanding of what it means to be white, supposedly, but white is not a race. The race is Caucasian, which is why it covers all of Europe and parts of Asia and the Middle East. White are those who are Anglo-Saxon and nothing else, which means English and Scottish, for example. Scottish is even sometimes included and sometimes not. It excludes the rest of Britain, the United Kingdom, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, which ironically are the native Britons which discovered and settled the land. Anglo-Saxons were Germanic tribes who invaded and took over. The rest of Europeans, mainland, Iceland, Greenland, are not considered white, at least by the far right in England, who created the term white back in the day." End quote. So I just made a video talking about how confusing it is when you're in America filling out the census forms or whatever kind of form. Like if for me, I'm trying to get a full-time job again, and it narrows me down to either white, black, or Hispanic or Latino. And so let's talk about more about this. And it's just sad when I can't make money off of videos that are this relevant and this important, because YouTube is generically, they've got this computer system that like looks at terms in the titles and determines what shouldn't earn sponsorships. And they're gonna think, oh, this is like some kind of white supremacist video. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of a white supremacist video, this one in particular. But I want to explore, try to understand better what it means to be white, because that's very confusing. To me, it's just as confusing to understand here in America the difference between being Hispanic and Latino. It's so confusing and so inconsistent depending on who you ask. I've made videos about it before, only to find in the comment section no one can really agree. And it depends on what part of even America you're from. So what does it mean to be white? Well, as she already pointed out here, I like the way she said it. She said white is not a race. The race is Caucasian. So, you know, Russian people, they're white, but technically they're Asian if you look at it on a map. And then, like Melissa said, what about Middle Easterners? Of course, I am part Middle Eastern and I'm also part Jewish. And I made a video about that, obviously. Are Jews white? People deem Jews are white. But Middle Easterns, it depends on whether or not they're Arabic or not. And that can change it because they're seen as darker and not true. Not in the same as someone from Israel or maybe Jordan, I don't know. So what does it mean to be white? I looked it up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia actually has a broader sense of what it means to be white. They're not saying it has anything to do with Europe. They're saying ultimately it's a matter of what the general population deems as what is white. And so on there it shows Middle Eastern people who, even if they are very ethnically Middle Eastern in every way, but if their skin is the same as mine, or sometimes even lighter, they're white, right? It's confusing too with like, okay, what if you're Mexican? If you're Mexican, you're arguably half Central American and then half European. In Spanish, if you're Spanish, you're white. So are Mexicans half white? People in America don't see it that way, but I made a video about that. Are Mexicans a half-breed? So it's very confusing, and it's very, I think the arbitrary way we're going to find an answer to what does it mean to be white, aside from culture, because I definitely agree there's white culture, and I don't mean, and again, I don't mean in some kind of white supremacist way. I just mean, for example, pumpkin spice latte. Here in America, that's a big deal. And, quote, white girls love to go get pumpkin spice coffee and Cheerios and frozen, you know, whatever's, and that's a white thing, all right? Like, and I accept that, and I get that. Like maybe like bowling, Going bowling is a very white thing. I don't know anyone who's African American here that is into bowling. So culturally, there's certain things. But if we're just talking about our ethnicity being white, and if we take that away from England or Scotland, whatever it is, what makes you white? I'm going to say, here's my answer. What makes you white is not being a different race that's not white. So that's why for me it's hard to identify truly as white, because I know that I'm not even half of me is European. Or arguably, I don't know, maybe half of me is European and the rest isn't. So I don't identify as just white personally. So, but it's funny because, like, okay, if you're say you're African American, but you have a white dad and a black mom. Well, in America, you'll be seen as mixed, but no one's going to see you as white. They'll see you as black, but they're not going to see you as white. What if you have an Asian, let's say you have a Filipino mother and a white dad. No one's really going to see you as just white. They're going to see you as something else too. So I think being white and identifying as white means you're exclusively not other races to the point that you can't even know what those other races are. For me, I would break that rule because I know too much about what I am beyond being European. So I think to know who's white, someone who is definitely not other things that would not be considered white. That's the best answer I think that you're going to find on the internet. It's messy, but I think that's the best. What is white? Whatever is specifically not something else. That's my answer. Thanks for asking. I love talking about this. I love celebrating diversity, ethnicity. We can talk about this. We're mature. We're intelligent people. We can celebrate these things.